Joining me today is chef extraordinaire, David Lovett. There are so many different focaccia recipes out there, but there's one person who makes it the best, and it's you, and you know it.
Thank you. It's very kind.
Your focaccia has this wonderful crispness. It's fluffy in the centre. I just don't know what you do to it, but we're going to find out today.
We are indeed.
Okay, what do we need to do to start?
So first, we need a bunch of ingredients, and we're going to get straight into it.
Okay.
And start with some tepid water, straight into a bowl. Now you can use a mixer if you've got one at home, but it's quite easy. Everyone's got a bowl at home, so you can start. You can do it that way.
Yep.
Next in with the yeast.
Yep.
Like that. And we're just going to give that a quick mix.
It looks like quite a lot of yeast, but
that will aid in the proving of the dough.
Yep.
So it'll prove a lot quicker. So we're not having to wait around for ages and ages and ages. So we're also not going to leave this to sit. Like a lot of times you'll leave yeast to sort of develop and start to come to life. I don't muck around with that sort of thing. So I've got the yeast in, the water in, and we're going to go straight in with plain flour. Okay,
now some chefs are very pedantic on what flour to use. You just say any good plain flour.
Good plain flour, yeah, unbleached flour. I've tried millions and millions of different types, blends and all that sort of thing. But just normal plain flour that you can get at the supermarket is has worked for me.
Yep. And this is just a plain flour, so you don't even need a bread flour.
No, I don't use bread flour. I use plain flour, so it doesn't need to be baker's flour. It's you know, it's something that's readily available. Again, I think about what an old nonna would use in Italy. You know, she'd be going to the supermarket, she'd be buying something simple. She's not buying, you know, fancy, you know, flours that we use in restaurants and that. So just bog standard plain flour. As we're working now, you know, you can feel the bowl is warm. The yeast is starting to activate, so we're not affecting the yeast in any way, shape or form. Next we need some salt and olive oil, and I'm going to get that straight in and we're going to get mixing. Okay. So olive oil in.
Yep. Oh, look at that colour.
And then it's just a case of bringing this together.
And so usually when you do this in a machine, you would mix it and knead it for about
normally in a machine, if I had the dough with the dough hook on, you know, we're looking at probably anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes of kneading on sort of a medium speed. You know, you want to get those the gluten activated and start to working and that sort of thing. So, but as you can see, it's already starting to come together. But in about 5 minutes, this is going to be a really beautiful silky dough. We're going to wrap it in a bit of cling film and pop it aside for half an hour to prove.
Nice. David, this looks incredible. It really has doubled in size.
And then some, yeah.
And then some, yeah.
Yeah. She's a beauty.
She is.
Now we need to just do a really, really quick fold. I'm just going to oil the bench, scrape the dough out, and then we're going to tray it.
Okay, so usually, I feel like you've turned all the rules upside down. Everything that I've learned, you've said, no, we're not doing it that way.
I'm very good at that.
Usually you would put flour on the bench, but you put oil.
I use oil because I've got this recipe. We've got perfect amount of ingredients here. We start adding flour.
Yes.
We don't want to change our ratios. A little bit of olive oil on the bench is perfect.
It is a focaccia after all, which does have that gorgeous crust, and there's oil is a predominant ingredient in it.
Absolutely. Super, super oily. And now you can see, super soft. If you want to touch that, you can see it's like pillowy and like clouds.
It's like a cloud, it is.
So really, really simply, we're not trying to knock too much air out of this dough now. We want to keep it nice and fluffy. So we're just going to give it a really rough rectangle shape.
Yes.
And then all we're going to do is fold this guy into the middle, like that. This guy over the top of it.
Oh, so it's just like folding up a blanket.
Exactly. I'm going to turn it over. Again, I'm really being really gentle, just letting the weight of the dough do everything. And roll it over. And you can see we've not changed the structure or the consistency of the dough by adding flour or anything like that. So we bring it together like that.
Okay.
Like that. We've got a tray that we've just sprayed.
Yep.
I'm just going to dust this with polenta.
Right, why do you do that?
I started doing it because I didn't want it to stick years and years and years ago.
Yep.
And I didn't realise that it wasn't going to stick. But then it became sort of a bit of my trademark because all the oil and that's on the dough gets into the polenta and it becomes really crispy and it just adds to the texture of the base.
It does, yeah.
So we're just going to pull it over like that. Leave it. We're going to give it a little splash of olive oil here so there's no drying. We're not going to cover this. We're just going to leave it at just out like that. So this will stop any stop it from drying out or anything like that. Not a great deal, just a little bit.
Okay, and another little nap. Wow, look at that. It's just so soft.
It's a beauty.
But you don't want to touch it too much, right?
No, we need to be really, really gentle. We've worked and left it this long. We've got all this beautiful air into it. It's nice and light and fluffy. We don't want to muck around with it and bash it around, so we need to be quite gentle with it.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind just giving us a splash of olive oil on top.
Okay. More olive oil.
More olive oil. That's why I've got such beautiful, soft hands. All right, perfect. So now what we're going to do, we're going to allow the weight of the dough to drag it over. So we're not being rough with it. We're just being really, really quite gentle. And you can see how soft that is.
Oh.
And that's going to come across like that.
So I have made your recipe a few times, and I think this is where I go wrong. I think I'm not as gentle as you. So it's the lifting
and it's
motion.
literally, and again, it's the weight of the dough
Yeah.
that's going to just, you just let the weight of the dough stretch it, and you can see that it does that.
It's a beautiful thing, making focaccia.
And so you can see we're going to bring it right into the edges there.
Yeah. These little bubbles here, this is a good sign, isn't it?
This is a great sign. We can see that it's active, it's alive, and they're going to puff right up. When we go into the oven, they're going to go really big and bubbly and just delightful.
Awesome.
So we're going to go toppings. So first we're going to go a little bit more olive oil.
Yes.
Please. So you can be quite generous this time. Yeah, that's fabulous.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm just going to, just to aid getting into the corners, I'm just going to give it a quick,
Yep.
Like that.
Ooh. There's like little puddles of oil.
And they'll just go into there, yeah. If you could just pass me the tomatoes, please.
Okay. So we've got some canned tomatoes here. If they're not optimum and in season, then there's nothing wrong with using canned
Absolutely
tomatoes.
not. No, they're a really, tinned products are really wonderful. Tomatoes in particular.
Yeah.
And if the tomatoes aren't up to standard,
Yes.
use tinned cherry tomatoes, or baby Romas are really fabulous as well. And so we're just going to sort of spot these around.
I love how you're just putting them in the little holes there. It's meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Now, talk to me about toppings. There's so many different ones. One of your signature ones, the sausage.
The Bunnings focaccia. Yes, that
love
just
it.
was a bit of a laugh, but gained a bit of a cult following.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just put at this stage sausages in there,
Yeah.
and then bake it, and then cut it into slices, and top it with some caramelised onions and a bit of tomato sauce.
Genius idea.
But rosemary, olives, just onions on there.
Yep.
Even like sour cherries, really beautiful with raw sugar. So same amount of olive oil and everything, dough the same. Sour cherries in there, raw sugar, olive oil, bake it in the oven, you've got a sweet one. So, tomatoes are in. We don't want to overdo it. It's kind of like pizza. You don't want to overdo it with toppings and that sort of thing. And then we're just going to add a little bit of dried oregano.
Lovely.
Just a wee bit. So a little bit more olive oil on top, please.
Yes.
And then we're going to leave it for 5 minutes. We're going to salt it and we're going to pop it into a really, really hot oven, 240 degrees.
And there she is in all her glory.
All her glory. So we pulled it out of the oven, we drizzled it with some olive oil. We've let it cool so we can actually handle it.
Because there wasn't enough olive oil at the beginning.
Never enough.
And that's the trick, though. You need a lot of olive oil.
Absolutely.
Yep. Oh. And you don't want to cut into this when it's piping hot. It's
No,
just
absolutely
the wrong
not.
thing to do, right? Yeah. Oh, look at this. It's the inside of it. That's what we want. Oh, thank you. I feel like I'm in a dream here. When David Lovett serves me, he's very famous focaccia, and you can see the inside. That's what we're after, right?
Absolutely. It's almost like a sponge cake.
Sponge cake, but better.
You can feel it doing you good, all that
Yeah.
olive oil.
I know. It is the most glorious focaccia you will ever make at home. David Lovett, thank you so much.
My pleasure.